All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into a pretty complex theory, one that comes from a series of documents alleging a totally new kind of hidden conflict is happening right now, something the source material calls eighth-generation warfare. Okay, so the source material comes out swinging with a really bold claim right from the get-go. It points to a major corporate board as the very center of this complex network it calls the Hydra. Now, that's a huge accusation, so let's unpack this and see exactly how the analysis connects all these dots. So, to really get our heads around this theory, we're going to break it down and follow the logic in 5 parts. We'll start with the main idea of the campaign, then we'll look at how it allegedly works, pinpoint the key players, and finally, see how the source material pieces it all together. So, what is this campaign supposed to be exactly? Well, the entire theory is built around this concept called eighth-generation warfare, or 8GW for short.
Now, according to the source material, 8GW isn't your typical warfare with armies and weapons. No, it's a strategy to gain control over a country's core systems from the inside. We're talking finance, media, government, the whole shebang. It's basically about steering the ship without ever firing a shot. The goal, as these documents describe it, is systemic co-option, making the system work for you while nobody even knows it's being controlled.
Okay, so how would something like this actually work in the real world? The analysis points to mass migration as one of the main tools, and it outlines what it claims is a managed 5-stage process. The documents lay out this really specific pipeline. It all allegedly kicks off with capital and strategy from what they call a Silicon Valley/Israeli intelligence nexus. Then, that money gets funneled through corporate grants and these anonymous funds to various NGOs. According to this theory, these NGOs then facilitate a controlled flow of migrants, which in turn overwhelms security vetting. And the final stage? The same network, the documents claim, provides legal services to prevent deportation once people have arrived.
You know, a key piece of this whole financial puzzle, according to the theory, is the use of something called donor-advised funds, or DAFs. The documents literally call them a financial black hole. And here's the gist of how they supposedly work. A donor gives a bunch of money to a big foundation, gets a nice tax break, and then that foundation makes grants. The result? The original source of the cash gets completely obscured.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The theory claims this whole operation isn't random at all. It's coordinated. And it points the finger at one specific group as the, quote, central integrator and foundational host of the campaign. And there it is. This is the absolute core assertion of the entire analysis. The theory is alleging that a single corporate board is acting as the gravitational center, connecting all these seemingly separate worlds, big tech, high finance, government policy, and powerful lobbying groups. So how does the theory even begin to support a claim that big? Well, the main evidence it presents is a web of what are called interlocking directorates. It's a fancy term, but it's actually pretty simple. It's just when a board member of one company also sits on the board of another organization, creating a direct, formal link between the two.
Okay, let's actually look at the specific connections, the interlocks that the source material claims to have verified. These links really form the backbone of the entire theory.
The theory doesn't go after the whole board. Instead, it zooms in and builds its case around the overlapping roles and the outside connections of just 3 specific members.
First up, we have Reid Hoffman. Now, besides sitting on Microsoft's board, the analysis flags 2 other really key connections. His role as a founding board member of PayPal, which the theory labels a debanking tool, and as a co-founder of FWD.US, an immigration advocacy group that the source calls the Invasion Lobby.
Next on the list is Charles Scharf. The key interlock highlighted here is his dual role. He's on Microsoft's board while also being the chairman and CEO of Wells Fargo. So in the context of this theory, that creates a direct bridge between the central tech hub and the massive world of big banking. And the third individual is Penny Pritzker. The analysis points to her as the policy link. It highlights her past job as U.S. Secretary of Commerce and her current board positions at super influential places like the Council on Foreign Relations and the Aspen Institute. But here's the thing. The theory doesn't just look at formal corporate roles. It also points to what it calls an informal interlock. The documents think it's a big deal that 2 of these keyboard members, Scharf and Pritzker, also serve together on boards at the Kennedy Center. They argue this creates a shared connection inside a very powerful cultural institution. All right, now for the final part of the analysis.
This is where all those individual threads we just looked at get pulled together to present one unified picture of this alleged network, which, again, it labels the Hydra.
So here's the crucial point the analysis is trying to make. These individual connections are not just random coincidences. No, they're presented as proof of a deliberately built system. Think of it like spokes on a wheel, where a central hub can influence and steer all these otherwise separate domains of power.
And this slide basically lays out the final map according to the documents. You can see the Microsoft board right there in the middle as the central nexus, and it's directly interlocked with the banking sector through Scharf, with global policy circles through Pritzker, and with both financial tools and immigration lobbying through Hoffman. The theory really culminates in what it describes as a kind of dual-track operation. It claims that on one hand, the corporation itself, Microsoft, profits from federal immigration enforcement by having cloud contracts with agencies like DHS and ICE. But then, on the other hand, the analysis alleges that wealth connected to its board members is used to fund the very NGOs lobbying on the other side of that same issue. And the source material just lays it all out with this final, direct statement. This is systemic co-option. This is 8GW. This is the wake-up call. And that's our breakdown of this very complex theory. Ultimately, the source material isn't just making a claim. It's leaving us with a really profound question about the nature of power itself. What does it actually mean when the lines between technology, finance, and government seem to dissolve into one single interconnected web?